Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we can have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have a rain warning issued for early next week, as we are going to see some pretty heavy rain moving in from the west. We've got a bit of a battle between low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, high pressure that has been giving us our heat across Europe, and where those do collide we of course have got weather fronts, and they look fairly stationary at times through Monday and Tuesday, causing a lot of heavy rain in the north and west. On the contrary, though, as we'll see from the latest UKV, to the south and the east of that weather front, we're still under the higher pressure and still under the heat. Therefore, for a few areas, especially across England and Wales through Monday and Tuesday, we could still get into the mid to high 20s, maybe even nudging 30 degrees in a couple of locations. As we progress into the longer range, though, it does look very up and down. It still does look like there'll be plenty of warmth around at times. I don't think we'll see any heatwave conditions, at least for the near to medium future, apart from maybe Monday, Tuesday, where it could get a little bit hot, as I said. And it does look like there'll be plenty of precipitation around, so a lot more changeable when it comes to how unsettled it is. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, we have seen that cold front sweep through overnight last night, and it has now cleared all the way through into Europe, and that's why you can see this kind of arc of showers across much of northern Europe up towards Scandinavia. That's the cold front, and behind that we're now into fresher air. It's not cold, but it's back down to average, maybe even below average in a few places, as that Atlantic wind has come back in. And you can see that we've got plenty of showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland, of course closer to the Atlantic Ocean, therefore got more moisture within that air. A few showers still lingering across the southeast, still forming along that cold front, but most across England and Wales are dry today. But the big caveat is this afternoon temperatures are quite a bit cooler. Now, not massively cooler. The weather front is fairly strong, but it's not bringing in Arctic air or anything. It's just bringing slightly fresher Atlantic air in. So you can see temperatures are still into the low 20s today, not the high 20s, which is getting swept away across parts of Europe. And it is going to be slightly cooler potentially tomorrow as well. 21, 22 degrees looks like the top temperature. For some, that's still warm, not too bad. It's just quite a bit cooler than 30 degrees we were seeing over the past few days. Now, to go over to the weather warnings now, we do have a warning for Monday, and this is for heavy rain from 3 a.m. until 9 p.m. across parts of western Scotland. Now, this is for that, as I said, stationary weather front. You can see here slow moving band of rain is expected to affect western, central and southwestern Scotland on Monday, widely 20 to 40 millimetres, maybe 50 to 75 in a few areas. Strong and gusty southerly winds are possible as well, and there could be an odd rumble of thunder. You can see the impact matrix, medium likelihood and low impact. As I said, it is going to be for that heavy rain pushing in. I wouldn't be surprised to see this slightly expanded and maybe even extended to Northern Ireland as well, from the looks of the latest runs. So do have a look at those latest runs now. This is the latest UKV. You can see that cold front sweeping through overnight with all that cloud, leaving behind a day of sunshine and showers. As we head overnight tonight, seeing a bit more cloud pushing in from the west, another change in the air mass. And for Sunday, it is cloudy with that heavy rain starting to push in from the northwest. Now, this is that hot air starting to make a return. Now, it really only impact the temperatures properly through Monday and Tuesday, as we are still trapped under quite a bit of cloud here on Sunday. But you can see that transition occurring. And if you look across that rain for western Scotland, it doesn't really move much through Sunday, and then it continues into Monday, getting reinforcements with some heavier bouts into Monday before slowly petering out into Tuesday. So you can see for about 24 to 36 hours, it doesn't really move. Yes, fluctuates in intensity, but the overall banding doesn't really move at all. And to the south and the east, it's actually pretty dry and sunny, for eventually the line of rain moves eastwards, maybe a few thunderstorms along it, as it eventually sweeps away all the hot air by early hours of Wednesday. And then into Wednesday and the rest of the week, it's more of a flat westerly pattern. That heat has been pushed away, and we're back into fresher Atlantic conditions. Now, if you look at the upper air temperature level for this, you can see the hot air getting pushed away at the moment, replaced by much fresher air for now. And then as we head into Sunday, that hot air returns for England and Wales, and even for northern areas just trapped under all the cloud and rain, and the hot air last all the way through Monday and slowly get swept away on Tuesday, but at the surface still could last across much of England and Wales there through Tuesday afternoon. And then you can see for Wednesday and the rest of the week, we're all back into fresher air masses, oscillating, of course, with weather fronts moving through, but not oscillating with as much heat as we have had, or as we're going to see through Monday and Tuesday. Now, if you look at the surface temperatures, you can see this afternoon, temperatures peaking around the 22 to maybe 24 degree mark, but for most, low 20s to high teens. Into tomorrow, it's a similar story. Again, high teens to low 20s, nothing spectacular, generally average to slightly below average for the time of year. And then we hover back into Monday, and look at that, temperatures rising much higher, 26 to maybe as high as 28 for eastern parts. And the same could be said for Tuesday. Again, could be heading up to 28 or 29 ahead of that weather front. Depending on how quickly that weather front moves through, that will make a big difference to how large the area of heat is on Tuesday. If it's a bit more progressive, that area of heat will be much smaller than this. If it's a bit slower, then this could expand further westwards, all that warmth and heat. So we'll have to wait and see over the next day or so. And then finally into Wednesday, it is fresher once again, back towards the low 20s as we do see Atlantic conditions pushing in. Now, if you do have a look at the longer range, you can see the westerly winds starting to push in at the moment, and they are going to battle against that high pressure to our south and the east. And you see for Monday why we've got that stationary weather front, cool Atlantic air pushing in against this plume of heat associated with that European high. Eventually, the low pressure does win out, and then you can see we go into more of a fresher Atlantic flow for much of early August. Yes, you look to the southeast, still a lot of heat around, and I wouldn't rule out another few days of a heat snap potentially occurring, or a plume of heat arriving from the south for a time, but it looks unlikely we'll see anything heat wave like, i.e. consistent of 3 or more days. Could last here for a couple of days, getting frequently hit by thunderstorms and by weather fronts trying to push in, but it does look like there could be some heat around in the far south for a time next week and the week after. But eventually, we just see more of a flat west, and it does go pretty unsettled with quite a lot of rain coming in from the west. You can just see a conveyor belt of moisture associated with the Atlantic systems, just lots of bouts of rain pushing in. Now, if you compare to the latest GM, again, very similar over the coming days, that heat to the southeast, low pressure to our west and our north, and then eventually as we head into the following week, we do see a similar pattern, high pressure trying to build across Europe with some heat, but instead we do see a bit of a trapped low. So the heat is still there, but it's towards Eastern Europe, and instead we've got a bit of a trough across Central and Northern Europe, which could produce a lot of thunderstorms, maybe not for the UK, but where we see this dividing line between the heat and the low pressure, fresher conditions along that line, maybe through eastern France, Switzerland, up through Germany and Italy, we could see a lot of severe thunderstorms, it looks like. But for the UK, fresher conditions, and again, very similar to the GFS, rain would be coming in off the Atlantic. Could see briefly dry conditions here, but look at that, weather front coming in from the Atlantic, and then severe thunderstorms across much of Europe there. So we're kind of in between, not getting massively impacted by the weather front, not massively impacted by the thunderstorms either. But again, this is a frame in time. We are likely to see that weather front pushing in over the coming hours after this. If you look at the latest ECMWF, again, broadly very similar, high pressure towards Europe, low pressure coming off the Atlantic, and then as we get towards day 10, pretty flat westerly pattern if we're being completely honest. It is picking up some pretty deep lows, so I wouldn't be surprised if we did see the odd bit of windy weather out there as we do start to head towards the tropical storm hurricane season over the coming weeks. So there will be more energy around in the North Atlantic if some of those ex-tropical systems do get pumped towards the jet stream. And you can see a kind of an example here towards northeast Canada, not necessarily saying this is a hurricane moving in, but it is a tropical system powered by the heat. You can see that by, if we put on the upper air temperature, it's got a very hot core. So we are seeing tropical systems developing here, and again, that could put a bit of a spanner in the works as ever through August and September. So ECMWF starting to show the impacts of that. We'll have to keep a very close eye on that. As said, that could really increase the volatility of the runs, and it could potentially produce something stormy at times as well. Now, if you do finish by looking at the latest ensembles, you can see very up and down over the next week, but generally more average to above average with a few cooler bouts in there. You can see the GFS operational has got some decent support as we head into next week, especially towards next weekend, for maybe something a bit hotter again. Again, not lasting more than a few days, but definitely something a bit hotter there. It'll just be whether it's dry or not. And as we saw from the GFS run that produced that, it would mainly be a southern and eastern event, not up and down the country, as we do again have weather fronts further north and westwards. And we can see that if we put on the Glasgow, for example, much cooler and much higher precipitation. It's very much a more regional thing, and again that will mean it's a much higher volatility here. You can kind of see that a westerly flow is going to be pretty prevalent. As you can see, Glasgow here, very few hot runs, which does give the indication that a big high pressure system building in over the UK is looking pretty unlikely. Yes, it could build over the south and the east, but getting towards Scotland, not looking likely here at all. And it does look like a pretty unsettled, cool and wet and maybe even windy early part of August is setting up here for northern areas. If we go back to London and put on the ECMWF ensembles, broadly a very similar picture. Up and down, some very hot runs in the longer term, but increased precipitation. And if we do go to Glasgow, again, I'm guessing that is going to be a similar story. Yes, it's cooler with lots of precipitation. A few more odd hotter runs appearing, so maybe a little bit more in line with some heat plumes coming from the south. But majority of runs, it looks like here, have got unsettled conditions coming in from the west, heat still across Europe, and we're kind of be in that battle between that heat and those Atlantic winds. We'll have to wait and see exactly how it does play out, but from the looks of it, it's going to be very up and down. There's going to be some hot days, there's going to be some cool, wet and windy days. I think we're going to have an eclectic mix. The further north as you are, I do think you'll be more of those cooler, wetter days. Further south as you are, probably you'll have more hotter, drier days. But you never know, we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.